What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 79, part 2. Feels like this has been a lifetime since this matchup ended up, but it's only been 6 days. Tonight, staying up late with me, it is indeed past midnight, our commissioner and the three-time Bigs champion, Ben Nisman. Benny, how you feeling tonight, my friend?
Feeling good, Joe. It was an exciting week. Week 9 was, and I'm looking forward to breaking down these four matchups. Obviously, this is probably one of the greatest upsets I think I've ever seen in the Bigs, potentially. But we'll get into that and a lot more. So, Jo Schubert, please, as always, set the table, lead it off, my friend.
Let's get going, boys. Week 9 is in the books, and our sincerest apologies for 6 days waiting for this one. But we know exactly how excited you guys get for this. Benny, we're actually kicking this one off with your matchup against Christian Wood. You tipped down an 11-9 win, but if you're honest, I think you liked this one to be a little bit bigger. Am I right?
Yeah, that's an understatement, Joe. A very, very frustrating matchup. Of course, having a 3-week winning streak is nice. You take a win however you can get it. But man, when you hear all these close categories, it's going to pull my hair out.
Well, let's talk about Sunday. Triples were in fact tied. Christian got that one. Ben, you led by 10 1/3 innings, and Christian got you by a third of an inning there. Christian had a 3-strikeout lead, and you did take that one. And finally, it looks like you guys, Christian had himself a 4-walk by a pitcher advantage, and you ended up tying that one, so that ends up looking good.
Right.
4 close categories this week. He did get the triple, the steal, the walk, the error, the third of an inning, 2 losses and 2 saves. Benji, for you, the strikeout, the win, 6 strikeouts by a pitcher, and the 2 relief appearances with 5 ticks by the whip. You guys tied in just those walks by a pitcher. Benny, on your bench this week, my friend, it is 11 for 50.
Nice. So is it 205?
It's 220 with
Oh,
7
duh.
runs. Yeah. 7 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 6 RBIs, 4 walks, 13 strikeouts, and 2 errors. The 4 walks would play, obviously, only losing that by 1. And the 13 strikeouts certainly would have played as you only won that by 1. Your transactions this week: dropped James McCann for Trey Mancini, which was a waste. You added Edward Julian, 1 for 4 with a strikeout. Dropped Mancini for Eddie Rosario, 1 for 4 with a double, 3 strikeouts and an error. What was the Mancini thing?
Well, Mancini was on Monday, correct?
Yes, this is Monday.
Yeah, I was trying to just add a little bit of pressure into the lineup. It was a light Memorial Day for me, and just try to add some bats. And the frustrating part is that I went with Rosario after second thinking about getting Austin Slater in my lineup, and that would have been a much better pickup. He hit a bomb that day. Rosario's error, I mean, that ends up being pivotal. I lose that category by 1. It's frustrating enough to stream an error, but it's even more frustrating when it's an outfielder that does it. Extremely painful. And when you end up losing that stat by 1, it's hard not to look back at the decision that you made. Sometimes it is the moves that you don't make.
Very, very true. The next day, you dropped both Julian and Eddie Rosario, picked up Aaron Loop with a 1 inning, 1 earned, a strikeout relief appearance, and Ranger Suarez, 6 2/3, a loss, a homer, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 270 and a 105. This seems to be a dude that you're gonna have rolling in the rotation for the next couple of weeks. Is that right?
Yeah. It's obviously a matchup type player. He's had about 4 or 5 good starts in a row, and I mean, I realize this is we're talking about week 9 right now, and I'm just gonna jump ahead to week 10. Like yesterday, I could have played him against the Dodgers. I avoided that. Should have played him. He was great against the Dodgers. He's been solid for a while, and yeah, he's staying on the team at least for now.
All right. On the 31st, you dropped Hernandez for Jose Ruiz, who gave you a clean relief appearance. You dropped that guy, and you dropped Aaron Loop for Daniel Bard, 2/3 of an inning, 2 walks, a strikeout, of 450, and a relief appearance. You added Andrew Nardi for a clean relief appearance, and then added Steven Wilson on the 4th, which was Sunday. He did not make it into the game. Your key players this week, man, that dude Luis Arise is just really, really good at baseball. 522 and a 538 this week. 2 runs, 3 doubles, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, and only 1 strikeout. The least valuable hitter, we're going with Brandon Nimmo this time, man. 150 and a 190 with a run, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. The Mets have been bad, and this is not good for him. The Cy Young this week is Miles Michaelis, however. 8 innings, a win, a walk, 10 strikeouts, and an 050 whip. The Cy Yuck is Josh Hader, the 3rd of an inning, a loss, a walk, a 54-9 in his 1 relief appearance. Over to Christian's side on his bench this week, Benjamin. Ooh, this is an interesting one. It's 17 for 68.
Oh, come on. 264.
It's actually a perfect quarter. Go figure.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't going to do the math on that right now.
No chance. 8 runs, 6 doubles, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, 2 steals, 5 walks, 13 strikeouts, and 2 errors. The 2 errors plays, the 5 walks plays. I mean, 12 RBIs would have won it for him, but he would have had to be perfect. The 3 homers would have tied it, but he would have had to be perfect. All of that is to say, none of this really plays, but the error was really nice to keep out of the lineup. He only made 1 move. He dropped Luis Ortiz for IKF, who had a decent week other than the day he picked him up with an 0 for 4.
Oh my God! But the walk on Sunday he gets to tie that category, to take that category, tie that
Take
category.
that category. He took
Oh
it
my
from
God! And then in the Sunday night game, man, like, all right, Joe.
Let me get through his key players, and I promise you I'm going to give you this one.
Okay, all
right. Alex Kirilloff is, in fact, the player of the week for him. He went 412 with a 600, 3 runs, a double, 2 RBIs, 7 walks, and only 1 strikeout. But the least valuable hitter was his teammate, Max Kepler, a 115 and a 115, 2 runs, looks like 1 RBI and 7 strikeouts. On the pitching side, his new ace, Nate Eovaldi, 11 innings, 11 strikeouts, 2 wins, 3 walks, and an 073 whip. He was clean through both of them. The Cy Yuck is Logan Gilbert, 4 innings, a loss, 2 bombs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, 11.25, and a 2. Benji, this isn't yours, man. And I know you're taking away a win here, but you're not feeling too great about it. Talk to me.
You know, I feel like I set myself up pretty darn well to win innings pitched. Like, I looked at it, Joe, and I realized what it required from him to take that stat. And in order for him to take it, none of my relievers basically could come into the game. Let's go to Sunday and see why the hell that couldn't happen. Like, I felt like I played it perfectly, and even still, it just didn't matter, Joe. Like, all I needed was either the Colorado Rockies to not be bad against the Kansas City Royals, or what, the San Diego Padres to not be bad against some other scrub team.
I think Kansas City they were playing recently.
No, I thought it was Colorado and Kansas City.
Okay. Just looking. I'm looking at wrong teams here, but regardless, it was a poor team that they were facing.
I'll look because I mean, it's going to drive me nuts if we don't. So, but again, I picked up Steven Wilson because I figured, okay, this guy hasn't come in a few days. I haven't seen Nick Martinez. Okay, here's another thing. I benched Nick Martinez on Saturday. He has the perfect inning because then I'm still thinking about walks. I'm still thinking about whip. Don't forget, I did actually tie the walk category, and I won whip by 0.05. So like, I was still thinking about how I needed to protect. On Sunday, I only played 4 hitters. I played Carlos Santana, Luis Arise, Soto, and Jeff McNeil to avoid the strikeouts. That ended up working out pretty well. Really not much I could really complain about there. But Chafin, he gets a horrible inning, whatever. He gives up the walk. That ties the category. Okay, I can live with that. Taylor Rogers, he comes in and has a great inning. He gives up 1 hit. but no walks. Couldn't get Daniel Bard in against the Rockies. Couldn't get Steven Wilson the day I picked him up against the Cubs. Couldn't get Josh Hader in. He hadn't come in for a bunch of days, but couldn't get him in. Pierce Johnson couldn't get him in. Camilo Doval couldn't get him in. I mean, it's painful, man, because all that needed to happen is either Colorado needs to have a lead at some point in the game or the Padres need to have a lead, and they're better than both of those teams, and neither one of those things happen. And as a result, I lose by an out. And I don't know how many of these guys it's happened to. It's happened to me at least 2 other times. It happened to me against Matt Loosee last year. It happens to me against Christian this year. There's nothing more painful than losing innings pitched by an out. Even tying that stat is pretty damn painful.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. Obviously, I look back and say, hey, I certainly could have grabbed this probable pitcher on
Was there
Sunday.
no idea to throw Ranger Suarez in Washington on Sunday?
I was considering it. But at that point, Joe, it was still early in the game, early in the day. I'm worried about the walks.
Which he gave up 1 and would have cost you the category.
Right, but his innings pitch flips innings pitch. So, it would have been better still to start him than not start him. But if he's shitty, then I lose whip as well. So, those 2 things are the things that I considered. I didn't need to. I felt like all I needed was 1 reliever between Colorado and San Diego. There's fucking 5 relievers between those 2 teams that I have, and not one of them came in. Extremely painful. But you can play it as perfectly as you can think of, and it still doesn't matter because it's still fantasy baseball. So I pat myself on the back because I feel like if it does happen, I look brilliant for getting innings pitched while
benching 12 innings.
12 innings, benching 2 starters, but just wasn't the right move.
Yeah. This is another bad week for Christian. I mean, he salvages this one, but it really didn't look good for much of the week. Where do we see him as he continues to fall down these standings?
It's a good question. I think it's as much as he does to his, he made a trade this week with Jason. So maybe that helps him out. That boosts his morale. If he can get a win over James McCloskey this week, that would be a big win for him. That's a tight matchup right now. I don't know. I won by 2 relief appearances, but I do feel like I had to grind. I mean, you mentioned all these ads that I made for relievers that ended up being pretty important. So he did make me sweat. He did make me tough it out, though he didn't make a lot of ads. So I don't know what you really make of that. Is it just that it was just a perfect storm that his guys were just coming in and doing what he needed to do on this particular week? I don't know, but it is obviously a team that I am concerned about. He's had a really tough first half, but he's got a whole 12 weeks to go. So there's a lot in front of him that he can do that, he can change his luck.
Absolutely. And this trade might be the catalyst for this. There are those that believe that he got the better end of the deal at the bare minimum. So that seems to at least be something that those in the league and those that rumble about it believe that could be something to flip his season. So good luck to him this week against James McCloskey. Tough matchup, tough draw here this week with that guy on your schedule. Benji, for you, man, still looking pretty at the top end of the standings list.
Yeah, and nearly 30 over 500 going into the matchup against Costas. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy that I've gone on a nice little run here. And I still love the team. It's just that I would say that my biggest challenge is figuring out who to bench day to day. There's a lot of good hitters. I seem to kind of get it wrong a lot of the time on which Colorado hitter, which Met hitter. Do I play both Mets hitters? Do I play both Colorado hitters? I realize that Luis Arraez is basically, you must play him all the time, but he kind of blocks somebody else. I got 3 first basemen. Josh Bell is, he's not really having a strong season, but the name on the back of his jersey tells you that he is going to break out at some point. He's still not striking out a good amount, which is nice. Carlos Santana and Josh Bell have pretty comparable stats right now, so I'm going matchup to matchup. Nathaniel Lowe, he gets really hot, then he gets cold for a little bit. It's a challenge, but I love the group that I put together, and I'm willing to tough it out with matchup to matchup for at least for now. I can, because I have a nice little lead.
And of course, you've got 12 weeks left to go. It's not as if you're not going to alter this team over the next 12 weeks. You certainly will, but the question is how much of that alteration is going to exist. And I don't think you're going to break down the team or make a catastrophic trade or anything like that.
No.
I don't foresee that. So
I will say, though, that it's a blessing and a curse that I haven't sustained an injury and to an offensive piece. If I did, it does make the decisions easier. Like the best that I had is that at one point, Josh Bell was on paternity leave. Mm-hmm. So at least that was 1 out of 4 that I knew I didn't have to worry about. But even just 3, I would still make the mistake. So it's been frustrating to say the least, but I know that I'm in a much better position than a lot of our other league mates. And I think that they wish that they were having the issues that I'm having right now.
I sure would. You know who else would? Both of the guys in our next matchup that we're going to highlight here. This one, I think it might have been matchup of the week. It's a hell of a matchup. It ends up in a 9-9 tie. Henry Collins and Mike Sherman. How are they doing here, Benji?
Well, I could tell you that Sherman's got a lot on his plate off the fantasy field. So, he's still working on the team. You could still tell that he adjusts the lineup. He makes sure that he gets his inning minimum. But, he's just got a lot more on his plate. But as far as Henry goes, Henry has been in a real fantasy, how do you say, a conundrum, for lack of a better word. He's got a big bench. He's been trying to play by the numbers, playing by the matchup, and it's been a struggle for him. And he's got a lot of guys that do very similar things and play very similar positions. And I think that's been kind of his bugaboo of just trying to figure out the right guys to play on this for the stats that he needs, specifically. So it's been tough. But I think he's doing great. And I think the fact that he climbs back here, he never had the lead at any point during the week. But on Sunday, he found a way to tie the matchup. And he should be proud of himself for that.
No doubt. And let's talk about that Sunday, how he made that happen. Mike Sherman had a triples lead, and he got that on Sunday. Henry had a walk lead, and Sherman tied that. But where it really matters is in the pitching. Henry and Sherman were tied in strikeouts. Henry put the hammer down, also taking the ERA title from him, as that was a 53 tick advantage for Sherman. It was also a 1.1. I'm sorry, a 2-point whip difference, and Henry ends up taking that by 1. Close categories. Henry wins by the 3 runs, 3 doubles, 2 errors, and 2 saves. Sherman wins by the loss, and they tied in triples, walks, and wins. For Henry on his bench this week, Benjamin, 16 for 48.
Nice. Well, not so nice. Is it 331?
It's 333. It's a perfect third.
Is it perfect? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it might be.
Absolutely perfect third with 5 runs, 3 doubles, 3 RBIs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. The 3 walks are certainly what play here. It's Jimenez on Saturday with Stott and a DNP at second base. Now, I don't know if that's the timing of the matchups or what have you, but that's one right there. His moves this week, not too many, probably about 6. Dropped Aroncy Contreras for Adrian Hauser, 4 1/3, a loss, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. It was bad. I dropped Hauser for Clark Schmidt, 5 2/3, a walk, 7 strikeouts, nothing earned. Very nice. He dropped Dom Smith for Ryan Noda. He dropped Noda for Luis Ortiz. 2 innings, a bomb, 2 walks, a 450 and a 150. He dropped Ortiz for Matthew Boyd. 5 innings, 9 strikeouts, a 180 and an 060. And finishes it off, Clark Schmidt getting dropped for Mitch Garver. 2 for 5, a run, a double, an RBI, and 2 strikeouts. Sounded like a pretty mixed bag when it comes to the pitching side, but when you finish out winning innings, strikeouts, ERA, and whip, you take it.
It was every one of those moves was worth it.
Absolutely. The MVP this week's name is Josh Naylor, 409 with a 480, 5 runs, 4 doubles, a homer, 9 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. That's a career week for Josh Naylor. Thank you very much. The least valuable hitter, we're still calling him Lou Bob. 111 with a 111, 4 strikeouts, and a run scored. Gross.
Probably were a couple of days where he benched him and he had good days, because I know that was happening pretty consistently with that guy.
No doubt. The Cy Young we're going to give to Matthew Boyd on that stream for the 5 innings, 9 strikeouts with 1 earned. And the Cy Young, I'm going to go with Mark Leiter Jr., an inning and a third, a loss, 2 bombs, a walk, a strikeout, a 20-25 with a 225 and 2 relief appearances. Just a bad week to be Mark Leiter's son. For Sherman on the other side of the coin, he goes 11 for 61.
Oh my God. Well, it's a great average. Incredible. 200. Is it under 100?
No.
Oh, is it 116?
It's 180.
All right.
3 runs, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, a steal, 18 strikeouts, and 2 errors. None of that plays. Not a single bit of that plays. Yep. 1 move, he dropped Carlos Hernandez for James Outman, 0 for 2 with a steal, a walk, and a strikeout. The steal was helpful. He won that by 4, so. The MVP this week is that MVP that we'll talk about many more times to come. Ronald Acuna, 308 and a 333 with 4 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 2 RBIs, 4 big steals that are the difference in the matchup, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter, Cal Raleigh, 118 and a 118, 3 strikeouts and an error with a double and an RBI. Edward Cabrera is the Cy Young this week. He went 6 innings with a win, a walk, 10 strikeouts, and an 083 whip. The Cy Young is Carlos Hernandez, who got dropped this week. An inning and a third, 2 losses, 2 strikeouts, 33.75 on the whip, 33.75 on the ERA, 3.75 on the whip, over 2 relief appearances. These guys are right around the middle in this glom that we've got here between about 5th and 14th. It's just a crazy glom of teams. So it's still one of those situations where we're waiting to see how the standings are going to shake out. Who's really going to differentiate themselves between a playoff team and not a playoff team? Benji, my question to you, which one of these guys is a playoff team if you have to pick one?
If I have to pick one, it would be Henry Collins. I think he's just putting a lot more focus on the team day to day, and I think that's going to make a difference. With that said, he's playing you very tough this week. Mike Sherman has to face you next week. I think that's going to be a very tough matchup and an opportunity for you to get right. Whereas I believe Henry's got Adam next week. So that's, another rookie, potentially a win for Henry. So between those 2 guys, it would be Henry, but when I look at Sherman's roster, he still has enough guys that even if he's just doing the bare minimum, he can still crush a team just if those guys carry him.
No doubt. Each of these guys Sherman has a plethora of experience here in this league. And if he is able to mitigate his personal life and get focused here, I could see him making a run. And the league, like I've said before, is better when we see Sherman competitive, when we see Ari competitive, when we see the more teams competitive, the better the league is.
Yes.
And Henry is right there with it. I've talked to him often this week, had a real good conversation with him today. And I look forward to reviewing our matchup next week. Anything else here?
Well, Yeah, I mean, I would say just as far as Sherman's team goes, like there's really a couple of just staples that could clobber you. A Ronald Acuna, Ozzy Albies, Andrew Vaughn has had a really good start. I like that he picked up Mauricio Dubon. Um, it's a pretty solid group, and he's dealt with some injuries as well. The question to me is, can these pitchers, can the Otani, Javier, Senga, basically, I would say that's his 1, 2, 3. Is that really enough to compete week to week with all these other? If you had a gun to my head, I would say probably.
I would say, here's my argument against that. Otani only throws once a week, guaranteed. Right? Senga's had a couple of starts.
Right. And he's another one that's another one. He's like 1 every 5, 1 every 6 days.
Right. And Javier, they're going to be very, very careful with, because that's the ace of their staff for the future behind Framber Valdez. My concern is not that these guys aren't talented. They absolutely are. My concern would be, as they get closer to playoff time, are these the type of guys who are going to be pushed, or are these the type of guys that'll be tapered back? I think Otani's safe to get a ramp up, but I don't know about the other two.
I guess it depends on where they are in the standings and how much they need to fight for a playoff spot. I mean, they're not going to mail it in. If they need Javier on a particular day, do the Astros to get into a wild card contention matchup, then they are going to play him.
All right, let's jump over to the next matchup here, my friend. And this one was a blowout, not quite as bad as the one we'll talk about here to finish the show. But Josh Haber gets himself a nice, solid first place here and takes down Matt Loosee 13-6. What'd you see here?
Just saw a dominant team over a team that's still learning a lot, a second year team that's not necessarily active day to day. Josh Haber, the guy that we wondered, would he ever be a playoff team in the bigs? My God, has this guy turned it around since 2020? I mean, 2019, this is when we started the podcast, and we were talking about how he would flip Kurt Suzuki and Yan Gomes all the time and never get it right because he wasn't checking. He's turned over a new leaf. And since 2021, which was a special year for him, when he grabbed that playoff spot, and since then, it's really been special. He had a tough year last year, but he was grinding it. He was still in the fight towards the last 2-3 weeks of the season, but now it's just a whole new team, and he's so proud of the way he drafted, as he should, and he's proud of the way he's been playing. He's been managing really, really well, and this was just a schooling from a much stronger, much more experienced manager.
No doubt. Coming into Sunday, Josh did have the steals advantage by 1. Matt did tie that up. However, Matt had a 7-tick on base percentage lead, and Josh took that down. Wins were tied. Matt took that down. Homer by a pitcher lead for Matt, and he flipped that on himself. Therefore, close categories this week. Josh wins by the triple and the home run given up by the pitcher. Matt wins by the error, 3 ticks on the batting average, and that win. They tied in steals and losses. For Josh Haber on his bench this week, Benjamin, it is 7 for 24.
I couldn't have said 7 for 28, huh?
Almost.
268?
292.
Okay.
So with 3 runs, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Guess what? None of that plays. He won all those categories.
Oh, good.
Yep. His transactions this week, he dropped Tim Meza for Rowdy Tellez, which was a waiver pickup, and then he immediately dropped that guy for Spencer Torkelson. So he just basically burned his waiver claim in the first 2 moves of the week. Torkelson 1 for 3 with a run, a double, an RBI, a walk, and a strikeout. I guess he got it right. He also dropped Louis Varland for Scott Magoo, 2 innings, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a 1 whip, and a relief appearance. He dropped Torkelson for Tovar, 1-for-4 with a bomb. He dropped Brian Bello for Louis. Dropped Louis Varland for Brian. No, he picked Louis Varland back up after Brian Bello was dropped, and he wasted him because he dropped him back for Rowdy Tellez. Josh, I need to know what was going on this week, man. There was a lot of weird stuff going on with the team. Tellez goes 1-for-4 with a run, a triple of all things, and 3 strikeouts. He dropped Marcell Ozuna for Ha-Seong Kim, 1-for-4 with 2 runs, a double, a steal, a walk, and a strikeout. He dropped Ezekiel Tovar for Louis Varland again. Dropped Nick Senzel for Ryan Weathers. Dropped Ha-Seong Kim for James Paxton. Weathers for Tommy Henry. And finally finished it out with Magoo for Mauricio Dubon, which was 1-for-4 with a strikeout. His key players this week, sir: Nick Castellanos, 458 with a 462 on base percentage, 2 runs, a double, 2 bombs, 6 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter, you remember you were saying that they just made some Taylor Walls kid something good recently? He's not very good recently. He did not get a hit this week, but had a 200 on base percentage, a run, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and an error. The Cy Young, welcome back John Gray to mediocrity. 7 innings, a win, a walk, 5 strikeouts, an 0.43 whip on the week. And on the season, has a 2.32 ERA.
We've been waiting for this guy. I mean, ever since he was in Colorado, he was supposed to be this great prospect that really never flourished, but I guess it had to do with Coors to an extent.
Yeah, sounds like it. The Cy Young is that guy we kind of talked extensively on a couple of weeks ago, Lance Lynn. 4 innings, a loss, 3 bombs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, an 18 ERA, and a 2.50 whip. Gross. And for Matt on his bench, it's 8 for 30.
Okay. 8 for 32 would be 250. 272.
Ooh, almost had this one. 267. Okay. 2 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 steals, 2 walks, and 14 strikeouts. The 2 steals obviously play. Nothing else does, as he got just ripped apart offensively. His moves this week, he dropped Brady Singer for Tucupita Marcano. What team?
I'll go with Kansas City.
It's Pittsburgh.
That was my second guess.
That guy went 0-for-4 with a strikeout that day. Carl Edwards gets dropped for Jesse Chavez, an inning, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a 2 whip, and a relief appearance. His key players this week, we're going to start with Justin Turner. He went 273, 2 runs, a double, 5 RBIs, and 4 strikeouts. Brandon Lau is the least valuable player. He went 091 with a 231, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and an error. The Cy Young is a dude he found just recently. Michael Kopech has really turned it on lately. 11 1/3 with a loss, 3 bombs, 3 walks, but 19 strikeouts and a 4.76 with an 0.97. It doesn't sound all that good, but this dude has had like 3 or 4 really, really good starts, and I think he deserves at least a little bit of recognition here. The Cy Young is the guy who pitched tonight and gave up 6 earned. That's Pat Sandoval. 6 innings. 3 1/3 innings, a loss, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 16-20, and a 3.30. Benjamin, we talked about Josh and how great this week was for him and how great we've seen him play over the last few weeks. But if we're honest, this one's kind of an easy layup for a guy like him, right?
Yes, for sure. And I'm actually proud that he's able to kind of squish the bug here, because it's a must double up for him, when you're playing somebody like that. And it's just another week for Matt where it's like Starlin Marte is basically a non-factor. He basically doesn't play fantasy baseball for him. Even when I look at Monday, there was an opportunity for Matt to put Joey Gallo at first. Justin Turner didn't even have a game that day. 1 for 5 with a walk, 3 strikeouts, and an error. It actually would have been bad for him to actually play him. So it's like, sometimes it's like you luck out and it works out. He ended up winning errors by 1. So could you imagine if he actually checked his team on Monday and then stuck with everything the same? Josh gets to tie that category. So I hope I get to see Matt Loosee kind of turn it up a little bit. He's having a much more respectable matchup against Sherman in week 10 here. So maybe that if he can grab the win there, it kind of fires him up for the next matchup. But getting back to Josh, I mean, what else can you say about this guy? I mean, he seems to be hitting all the right buttons right now.
No doubt. And it's so refreshing to see it, to see the Haber brothers up top with you. And we see a bunch of new faces here coming into the top 6. We see Bobby as a weekly guy up there. To put a bow on this, I would love to see Josh run with this first place spot for a little while here. That would be a really fun, confidence boosting thing for a guy that was a perpetual bottom feeder team for a lot of years. And now we've seen what happens when you put your nose to the grindstone and put your work in, because he's succeeding here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of it in the past was getting off to bad starts. And then, life gets in the way, and then, you don't really feel like checking the team as much. And then you lose another week, and then you lose another week. And it's just like, fuck this year. I got to worry about
before you know it,
Mets.
it's week 14 and you're in 15th place and you're 60 games out and you're discouraged.
Mm-hmm. But getting off to that good start, and he actually started with a loss. I think his first matchup was against Henry. It was either against Henry or it was against Adam. I think it was against Henry, though. And he lost. Henry actually won his first matchup. But Josh just moved on to the next week. He won that week, and he hasn't looked back.
No, he's doing fantastically. Josh, shout out to you, my friend. I know you're listening. This was a great win for you, and many more to come, we're thinking, this year. All right, everybody, get the cameras. Go ahead and take the picture of the matchup. Let's go ahead and give Frank Bucco all of the love, right, Benji?
Yeah, he deserves it, man. He deserves it. He played great.
He played better than I've seen him play in a very, very long time. Let's talk about Sunday first. We're going to talk about how well he did on Sunday. Doubles were tied. He got that one. Home runs. I had 1 home run lead, and he took that. I had a 3 RBI lead, and he took that. I had a steal lead, and he tied that. I had a 2/3 of an inning lead, and he took that. Home runs by a pitcher were tied. At least he gave that one to me. We also had strikeouts by a pitcher tied, and he took that one from me. Close categories this week. Frank wins by the 2 doubles, the homer, 3 RBIs, 2 walks by a batter, and 3 strikeouts by a batter. I won close by all 3 categories I won, so go ahead and take a look at that. And we tied in triples and steals for Frank on his bench this week, Benjamin. Here it is. It's 0 for 5.
Oh, it's 0.
Yes, you nailed it. Another week. The streak continues. He is 9 for 9. And not for nothing, it's about time we see this out of Frank, because I know he's been frustrated with his bench stats and Outman and Gunnar Henderson and so many of the other guys that we've seen flip-flopping in and out of the lineup. And 0 for 5 with a strikeout this week. That's exactly what Frank wants to hear. Credit to you, buddy. He had 9 transactions. He added 5 relievers and Saucedo, Justin Garza, AJ Smith-Shawver, Ryan Devensky, and Victor Gonzalez. He added 2 hitters of Pavin Smith and Ezekiel Tovar, and 2 starters of Brady Singer and Aaron Savale. His MVP this week gave me a big fat middle finger, and he can kiss my whole entire ass. His name is Alex Bregman. He had 435 with a 552 on base, 2 runs, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 6 walks, 4 strikeouts, and an error. Yes, the note
9.
from the night. Yeah, the note from Mike Haber does say a huge middle finger from Bregman to Joe for trading him away. The least valuable hitter is Francisco Lindor, who went 2 for 22. That's an 091 with a 167 on base and 8 strikeouts. Did have a homer, which does win him that category. So it is something productive that you get out of that guy. But holy shit, what a bad week.
Oh my God, he's frustrating the hell out of me. I mean, And now with Pete down, it's just like now he's not even going to see good pitches to hit. And the Mets are a whole different story right now, Joe.
I do not want to go down that rabbit hole right now, because if you get me started, I was talking to Jason Ashby today and I'm like, just don't get me started. I'm just so mad. And Epler is just so inept and I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. The Cy Young this week for Frank, it is Tyler Wells. 11 and a third, a win, a loss, a homer, 2 walks, 16 big strikeouts, a 238 and an 088. With another shout out to Yuri Perez, who gave me another middle finger for trading him to Frank. Although I'm not going to be too mad about that kid. That's a dart throw that he has all of the makings of being something special. You just, until you see it, you don't know what it is.
Yeah, he's also a baby. Like that could just fall apart.
Yeah. The Cy Yuck is Cal Quantrill, who's now on the IL, 4 and a third, a loss, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. 1662 is like a pilgrim year, and a 231 whip. Again, he's on the IL. All right, Benji, my bench this week, I went 3 for 18.
1 for 6.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is 1 for 6? Well, it's a good job out of you.
Thanks.
Is it 188 or 186?
It's 175.
167.
167. Run, an RBI, 5 walks, 9 strikeouts, and an error. The 5 walks plays if you want to get picky, but it's difficult to get those in. Nice work on the bench. Just had several players severely underperform this week, is the note from Mike, and I couldn't agree more. Once again, Benjamin, all 12 used this week. 7 relievers: Chavez, Minter, Wilson, Joyce, Raley, Stanek, and Beeks. 3 hitters of Bethancourt, Dubon, and Siri, and 2 starters of Zach Davies and Reed Detmers. The MVP is Mookie Betts this week. He had an excellent week, and he's the only one. 360 with a 429, 6 runs, 4 homers, 5 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter is given to Randy Arozarena, 174 with 10 strikeouts. But shout out to Paredes, who went 1 for 14 with 2 errors, Bethancourt, and every other hitter that simply didn't show up this week. Jose Siri with his 7 strikeouts, Bethancourt with his error and his 071. The Cy Young's the dude I traded for. His name is Chris Bassett, 7 2/3, a win, 8 strikeouts, nothing earned, and an 039. Excellent start against the Mets. And then celebrates by having a baby and goes on the NA so that I can get an extra guy in. Thanks so much. Appreciate your help. The Cy Yuck is going to be Martin Perez, 4 2/3 with 1157, 2 bombs, 4 walks. He's been up and down, but he's been more good than bad, if I can be really honest with you. I also have a shout out to Ryan Stanek with his 108 ERA and a third of an inning.
I've been there.
Yeah, that just sucks. That just absolutely sucks. I have one final note here, Frank. It's thanks to both of us from Mike Haber for giving us a really fun matchup and a really easy job at keeping track of the bench stats this week. While I have that and everyone's attention, I do want to give Frank this moment to go over the history of our matchup, because Frank called me on Sunday and swore up, down, left, and inside out that this was the first time he had ever beaten me in the history of the league, and I call false. And I told him about it because it was 2021, because I lost to both him and Mike Bozzetta, and he gloated that they succeeded in ruining my season when I made the playoffs. For the full review of our history between us, Benjamin, in 2019, I beat him 13-7. In 2020, I beat him in the finals 11-9. In 2021, I beat him 13-8 in week 3. He got me back in week 18, 13-4. In 2022, I beat him in week 1, 13-7, and then beat him again in week 16, 13-7. And now this one, the biggest lopsided victory of the series, but I'm still up 5-2 overall. Frank, it's your best week I've ever seen you manage, man. Absolutely, without question. I can't take a single thing away from you, and I'm going to give Ben the floor to sing praises as well.
Yeah, so firstly, I was very impressed with the fact that he got 5 extra relief appearances than you. Obviously, some of those ads that he made to get relievers really paid off. I'm wondering, is it, something that maybe you wish you did differently in your 12 ads, the way that you actually played them? Sometimes I wonder if maybe going like for using all the 12 ads, is that the best way to go? Or are you actually regressing by trying to add more? I don't know.
To that point, I did add 7 relievers this week and still lost by 5. My question is, what did he do on? So he got 6 on Sunday, and I had 2. So like, he got every single one of his dudes into that game.
Right, but he must have been sort of just gradually grabbing a few throughout the week. Because even 6 on the final day, he still had a ton. Going into it.
No doubt, no doubt. And it was 5 relievers from him where I used 7. So if you look at it as the 5 relievers that he grabbed, all of them gave him at least 1 relief appearance.
Right. Because like 17 relief appearances going into Sunday, and assuming you can get like 3, like 20 is still a pretty good number.
No doubt.
So 23, yeah, of course, like that's going to be tough to beat. But even having 17 going into Sunday is pretty strong. Like you're happy with that going in.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting 6 on a Sunday is just insane,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, the Schwarber thing, I would say that has to be the most frustrating thing that happened to Joe Schubert the entire matchup. More than Bregman, more than Yuri Perez, more than the one bomb and nothing else really from Lindor. To me, it was that surprising Schwarber Sunday.
Yeah, especially considering I had been talking to Frank every single day as I normally do. And one of the things that he was most pushing about the start of week 10 was Kyle Schwarber's not going to be on my team on Monday. He's just not going to be on my team on Monday. I'm going to end up dropping him because he's a piece of garbage and he strikes out way too much. Right. Nobody's going to give me a single thing for him. So he's going to be off my team. Until I said, hey, man, what happens if he hits like 2 bombs on Sunday? I actually said that and spoke it into the universe. And like, here we are. Here we are with two bombs on Sunday to win him the category and those RBIs. And here's Schwarber still on his team. So shout out there.
Now, I will say that his numbers across the board, 9 home runs, that's nice. That's going to be tough to beat. 31 RBI, tough to beat. 27 runs, tough to beat. A 248 average and a 318 on base. That's numbers that Joe Schubert should wipe the floor with this roster. Was there something to be said of the fact that, that your team really didn't perform like you expected it to? I mean, was it just that they were due to have a cold week, or was it decisions that you had made on who are the guys for this week playing? I mean, a combination.
I mean, I hit 167 on the bench, and not a whole lot could have been much better. 21 runs plays, 8 homers and 28 RBIs should play. 17 walks should play. My team struck out a lot this week. 55 strikeouts is uncharacteristic of this team. A 199. This was a Max Muncy type teams week, right? One dude performed, and the rest of it was kind of trash. And you look at it and you go, okay, yeah, I can see how the team goes as Max Muncy did this week, but by and large, we're doing pretty solid stuff much of this year offensively.
Yeah. And another thing is that just the fact that Frank throws to a 286 over 78 and 2/3.
Yeah.
Incredible numbers to continue to pitch and continue to put your chips in and only get 21 walks out of it, nearly a strikeout an inning, 74 of them, and stay under a 3 ERA and a 1.13 whip over 78 innings. It's very, very tough to do. So his pitching was just on fire.
Yeah. And if you look at the ERA difference, you're going to see that it's like 3+ runs, but I also had a 9 and change ERA on Sunday, so it's probably not quite that bad. That being said, this is all Frank. This was the best matchup that I have ever seen him work, other than our 2020 final. Like, credit to him there as well. But this one is the outcome that he absolutely deserves. And not for nothing, the guy's currently in the playoff picture. If he continues to make this run, we could actually see quite a bit of a shakeup in the playoff picture and
That's
quite
true.
an interesting story for the second half. That being said, Benjamin, let's bring it to the season records that were set this week. Only two of them. Costas Paragas broke the 2023 stolen base record at 13. Sick. And Mike Sherman had the lowest number of strikeouts for a 7-day matchup this season with 31.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. As we spin it forward to week 10, this is normally the place where I ask you some sort of thought provoking question about what is it that we didn't talk about this week that you want to. So I'm going to ask it the easy way. What didn't we talk about this week that you'd like to highlight?
Wow. Way to put me on the spot. I don't know. I don't want to talk about the Mets right now. That's for sure.
No.
Is there a team in the top 10 right now that you are afraid of that might be cementing a spot in the top 6 that you're thinking that you're 9 in a row right now, going for 10 in a row in the playoffs, 10 years in a row, that this guy might be the guy that blocks you from getting in?
I still point to Mike Haber. I still point to Mike Haber, and it's going to be that guy until it's not. He's got me 4 weeks before my final four weeks are Mike Haber, Jason Ashby, Bobby Russo, Christian Wood. That is a gauntlet right at the end there, and one of those three guys can definitely ruin my season. If I had to take a guess, it could be Mike Haber, but at least I'll have 3 weeks to kind of try to mitigate and push back in if I can.
And is there one team that is just not that they are a team that's going to beat you by blocking you, but actually just their own record, the fact that they're winning and you're chasing them and you're not able to catch them for some reason?
Yeah, that could just
That's
as easily be Bobby. It could just as easily be Bobby as well in week 21, you know. Those 3 teams and yourself, like the Habers, Bobby, and you, I feel like right now are our 4 strongest teams. And though Bobby's taking this step back with all the IL guys, it remains to be seen how he reacts to that. What's the word I'm looking for? Trouble is the best one that comes to mind. It's a setback. That's the word I'm looking for. It's how he reacts to this setback will really determine what the second half of his season is going to be. Let's talk about managers of the week, Benjamin. It is time to talk about that wonderful, wonderful time of the week. Who's number 3 for you this week?
It's got to be Ari Nisman. I realize he's not a guy that makes a ton of ads. He probably made 0-1 against Mike Haber, but he beat Mike Haber. He beat him by 1. He held it down. He had 10 bombs. He tied him in RBIs with 30. An extremely impressive week from him. I mean, tied him in doubles with 14. Got 37 runs. Where did Ari come from to do this? A sub 3.5 ERA over 46 innings. Mike couldn't handle it. Mike had a 5.71 ERA. And obviously, Ari, and here's the weird thing, Ari actually had 2 saves and lost by 1. He had 9 relief appearances. He got crushed there. But obviously, those are the stats that he expects to lose. But the fact that he was able to grab 10 and hold off Mike Haber, I mean, we haven't seen him beat Mike Haber, I don't think, since that semifinal in 2016 when Ari just singled him to death and used bullpen, and Ari went to the finals against Mike Sherman. And since then, I don't think Ari's beaten Mike Haber, and we could look back, but this is an extremely impressive win. Is it a get-right win for him? I don't know. He's still got a lot to do, but this blew me away.
To me, get right wins are usually ones that are multiple points for your team. With that being said, I don't have Ari in my top 3, but I do respect the win that he put on Mike. If it was another couple of points better, he probably would crack it. But mine are 3 guys that really set themselves up right for the second half. I'm going to start here with Costas Paragas for the 16-5 win over Adam Lowenstein covered in the other show. This was a hell of a win for this guy, and he absolutely needed it because he was starting to slide, and this is a get right for him. Who's number 2 for you, sir?
Not easy. Obviously, Costas was great. He actually does not make my list here. I'm going with Brian Lebo. He defeats the talented Jason Ashby 10-8. And he's had a really, really tough season, has Brian Lebo. And this was a really bad matchup to run into. Jason Ashby, the fact that he was able to handle it, he wins ERA 3.71 to 3.74. All right. So just right there, you know that they had to play very, very tight in the pitching categories in order for him to win that category. He takes doubles 11-8. He takes runs by 5, 26 of them to 21. Probably frustrating for Jason Ashby to have 21 runs and still lose the category. He put up 10 stolen bases, but lost to Jason because Jason had 13 stolen bases. So when I look at some of these things, and 13 stolen bases, a lot of those end up turning into the 21 runs when those guys are on second base. For him to be able to sustain all that, he wins relief appearances 18-14. I mean, he had to work. And all I'm going to say about this man, this guy that had this win, the doctor is in. And when this guy is good, he's great. And he's been working his ass off the fantasy field and on the fantasy field. He has been really, really grinding it out day to day. He has blown me away, Joe, with how hard he has worked in the bigs. And it's amazing and it's paid off. And I just hope it's more of things to come because, you know, he had some struggles. He had some offensive woes. He had some trades that maybe made you scratch your head, but it doesn't matter. He's been just plugging away and trucking on, and he's been doing incredibly. I'm really, really proud of him.
Brian lost 3 of his first 4 and was his only win in that stretch was a 9-8 win over you.
Yeah.
He's won 4 of his last 5, and when he's won big, including a 15-3 over Mike fucking Haber. So let's put some respect on the run that this guy's on right now. And he's getting Bobby at what feels like the right time, but this matchup has gone in Bobby's favor. After that, Christian, Costas, Frank, and Henry. So that's his next month. And it feels like that could be some sort of time for him to get right here.
Potentially.
Is number 1 Frank?
Well, who's your number 2?
Oh, mine was also Brian, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, my number 1 actually is Frank Francis Bucco. And a lot of it is, of course, the big stats, the great pitching that he had, the fact that he, was able to take over in home runs, RBIs, have 23 relief appearances, which just shocked me that he wasn't able, you're usually dominant in that category. And the fact that he kind of dominated you was really impressive. But what actually really impressed me a lot was when I spoke to him, he's told me that he didn't really do that much different that he would do against any other manager. He was really humble about it, much more humble than I anticipated. And I like that. I like that he didn't buckle under the pressure and feel like because he's playing Joe Schubert, he has to do so many things differently. No, he stuck to his game. He stuck to his guns. He played his game and it worked out. And it worked out as best as you possibly could.
Any man with 2 hands has a fighting chance, right? Sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield. Frank was in fact the windshield this week on my fantasy team that was the bug. And there wasn't a whole lot I could do, man. By Sunday, I had what I had and I had already maxed out moves. I knew he was going to add pitchers. I knew he was going to take a lot of shit from me and I knew it was going to get really, really ugly. You just sort of hope that his guys don't succeed. You hope that maybe the fantasy gods will smile upon you. they certainly did not fucking look at me and go, "Oh, okay, we'll help you out here." No, no. Frank is very deserving of number one this week. He's very deserving of a fifth place spot in the league right now with how much he's putting in. Congratulations, Frank. My hat's off to you. Now go out there and actually make the playoffs. I really, really want to see that. Benji, we got this done in an hour, buddy.
Wow, it's amazing, man. I want to close my side of it by just saying that on Thursday, we had two gentlemen over from our league come and chill. And I've been living in this house since May of 2021. Joe, I have not had a more enjoyable night than that time that I spent with the three of you. I had such a blast between the laughs, the intensity, our focus on four TVs, our own mannerisms, the way that we treat the bigs, like when something good happened to any one of us or bad, like the way that we had our own personal dialogue. It was amazing and so funny. And I just kind of wish that there was a tape recorder on us or something that could just show, because we were just having our own conversations with ourselves. It was amazing. It was a blast, and I can't wait to do it again.
I will never forget Bobby Russo's dance after the second home run Jose Ramirez hit that night. On top of the fact that he hit a third one that night. Insane. That was one hell of a night. And of course the Mets lost in horrific fashion after Frank left and he had to text us that the Braves won. So at least we survived having to hear him glow.
Yeah, because he left in the ninth inning. Oh my God, thank God.
Yep.
It was like, you're not even going to stay for the ninth inning? No. Oh my God, that would have been brutal.
Right. Benji, I thank you so much for being up until 1 a.m. with me to get this done for our boys. 6 days late, but God damn it, we're going to get it done.
Absolutely, man. It's been a blast as always. Can't wait to do it again, probably 2 or 3 days from now.
It sounds about right. Let's come back in a couple of days. Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe if you haven't already. Ring bells to get notifications. But until next time, guys, it's been real, it's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you next time.